You're listening to Last Word Radio, where you get the last word.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. This is March the 25th, 2019. With you today is myself, Carl, and the injured Nick. What is going on over there?
Oh, you're lucky I made it in today, Carl. This is a bad one.
You had a Drew Doughty-like bad day, apparently, right?
I had it was a little worse than Doughty's day, let me say.
Oof.
This is a podcast, so you can't hear, but I'm holding up my hands. I have 2 Band-Aids on each of my ring fingers and my hands. I can't take the Band-Aids off because I can't do anything with those fingers. Here's what happened. It's kind of silly. So I've had the same pair of hockey skates since I was 16 years old. Going on like 14, 15 years. The blades were getting down to nothing. So I thought, it's time. I'll go shopping for a new pair of hockey skates. Well, when you tie skates once a week, not a big deal. Fingers can take it. When you try on 4 to 5 different pairs of skates and you tie 4 to 5 of them in a row, it burns the skin off your fingers, apparently. And I have 2. Dude, I was pulling hard.
You tie those things aggressively.
They probably didn't need to be tightened so hard for just fitting, but I don't do anything halfway, apparently.
No.
So much so that I tore the skin off each of my fingers.
And did you get new skates?
I did get new skates, yeah.
Well, that's good.
But after the one finger ripped first, and I was like, oh my God, this hurts so much. But I didn't want to ask the guy to tie my other skate for me.
Was that on the last set you tried on, or did you have more to go, or did you just?
No, it was like mid set. It was like mid set. I think I tried 1 or 2 more on after. I can't remember.
You know,
but I just realized the impact on those fingers.
This time of the year, that's one of those, injuries start to linger. It happens, but you put in a solid fourth line effort and you push through, and I appreciate that.
Hey, anything for the team. The game must go on.
It's true. Yeah. They don't stop for some hand injuries from tying your skates too hard.
No way. My teammates are counting on me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for making it here tonight. Big week for the Fourth Line Podcast. We've got some kind of insider info coming up here. We've got some review of a championship game that Nick was at. Some news there. We have on Wednesday, even after the show comes out, Wednesday at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 6 o'clock Mountain time. Tune in live, and we'll be sending out that link. We'll put it that in the episode description, unless I forget. Tune in live, where you can join us in watching the Avalanche championship video where Nick pays off a bet. What else is going on this week? There was supposed to be a WHL show last week. That's been postponed to this week. So we've got 3 shows coming out from the Fourth Line Podcast this week.
So much hashtag content.
So much content. Before we get to our content, let's let you know about the content from ATB, the official sponsor of the Alberta Podcast Network, and a fantastic place to go where you need banks. And I think most people out there listening have a bank that they use. And if you're thinking, is my bank giving me what I need from it? Head to atb.com and you can find out what ATB is doing that your bank isn't. And one of those things is supporting the community around you and being a great part of Alberta. ATB.com is your place to go. Nick.
Carl?
Did you see, what was that? Was that Monday morning? No. What day? Friday.
Today's Monday.
Today's Friday, Monday morning.
Today's Monday.
Yes, but this story I'm telling you happened on Friday.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Friday morning, I wake up and I see some very interesting comments from Ottawa Senators owner Eugene Melnyk. This is on the heels of some interesting comments from Edmonton Oilers CEO Bob Nicholson on Thursday, right? He went out and somehow, for some reason, he thought the only reason the Oilers missed the playoffs was because Tobias Reeder isn't good.
And then thought the appropriate thing to do was to broadcast that to all the season ticket holders.
Right, yeah. And so apparently that's a view he has, which, Oilers are in good hands if that's the case. If he thinks we're one very good Tobias Rieder away from a playoff spot, you're in good hands next year because that's an easy piece to find.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Just another 10 goals. Apparently, that's all they need.
All they needed. They're 10 goals short. They just needed it in select games. But nonetheless, Oilers not in the playoffs. Tobias Rieder not returning to Edmonton. But Eugene Melnyk had some comments as well. Taking to the media, doing some interviews, and that's always good for a good time.
Well, it's always a good time. I mean, the guy makes headlines.
He does.
My question is, who is allowing him to call into these radio shows and give interviews? Somebody needs to put a stop to this. This is not good.
No, it's terrible. And it makes, every time he does, the Senators become a laughingstock yet again. And then someone takes to the Twitterverse and starts creating these burner accounts to defending him and the team.
Yeah, I saw that. Someone's doing that.
Yeah. So what did you think? How much do you think, was there ever any that were actually Eugene, or were they always just people up for a good time?
I think there's definitely some people up for a good time. I don't know if any of them were actually Eugene Melnyk. I can't imagine a man of his stature having, I just try to picture in my head him hunched over on a laptop on twitter.com, opening a profile, having to go into his email to confirm, verify the account. I can't see it. That being said, it probably wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, or getting someone else to do it for him.
Exactly. That's option C, others in the organization.
Yeah, or just some people out to have a good time at the expense of the Ottawa Senators, which certainly there is some of. And I got to experience some of that fun myself this week.
Did you, Carl?
I'm sitting there eating my breakfast, and I'm like, so I saw Jack Maxwell, the infamous one from this week, the Twitter account that was made, a burner account that was made in good fun. I decided to join in on the fun, making one of my own.
Carl.
I did. I mean, who wouldn't like to? What I've now learned is, according to some, I'm considered a troll, which is fine. It is very okay. Probably also accurate. But it was arguably the most, I created over breakfast. And it wasn't until later in the day, Travis Yost quote tweeted it, 4 or 5 hours after I actually sent out the first tweet. And so if you go on the twitter.com / I don't even know the name of this. So this is this one. It's Shawn Co 782 50960.
Okay, so I did that. Okay. First thing I noticed, you got the Zach Boychuk follow.
I just literally just now got the Zach Boychuk follow. It's very nice.
Congratulations, Carl.
Yeah, thanks, Zach.
Or Shawn.
Yeah, Zach's a big fan of my content, and really, really thankful to have him on board. And so one thing, there's a lot of people, obviously, who most of these burner accounts follow the same format of name and number. And I was like, man, why are they picking these numbers? That now, when you create a new Twitter account with a name, that is the default Twitter handle created for you. And so I put in Shawn Cooper, which I Googled names. I was trying to create an account that was likely a 70-year-old person. And so I looked up names for 40-year-olds, or sorry, someone who is 40, born in the 1970s. So I said most popular names in the 1970s. Shawn came up, and then I just Googled a fake name, and Cooper was my last name I came up with. So,
I love the thought process that came. Why you didn't just off the top of your head pick Tim Johnson? I just made that up right now.
Yeah, you could have. I spent minutes longer than you did coming up with this. Anyways, I was shocked when at a lunch break, I had notifications for that account turned off. Didn't really
imagine why.
It didn't think that anything would happen with it. Turns out, blew up, became one of the most popular tweets I've ever sent out in my life. Just the very first one, and you have it pulled up as well. But if you head to the old tweets, I believe I've sent out 4, 5, 6 tweets. First tweet of the day, Can't believe how many hashtag Sens fans are jumping all over Eugene this morning. You can tell he's working hard to make this team better. Fake fans. And that's what set people off, was the
fake fans, all caps.
Fake fans, all caps, 4 exclamation marks at the end. And it was a very good social experiment to be a part of. I think after tonight's episode, I'll stop the Shawn Cooper account. I'll stay logged into it, but yeah, it was a very interesting social experiment.
Why? What did you learn?
I learned that people are certainly enjoy making fun of Eugene Melnyk, right? That's not a question. I spent some lengthy time. It was a beautiful day on Friday. I spent some time outside, waiting for a car wash, as one does when it finally gets sunny out. And so, perused the Sens hashtags, and it was literally just a lot of tearing down Eugene and the organization. More so Eugene. Shockingly, Pierre Dorian didn't really get mentioned until yesterday, when he actually made some comments of himself. So, a lot of people who don't believe that they're actually him anymore, right? Most people at this point have given up thinking that it's him. But most of them, I assume, are just in on the joke, right? Like, nice comment, Eugene, or way to go. There are some people who genuinely are still angry at Mr. Melnyk and enjoy taking it out on these accounts. So it's a fun experience. If you're ever bored on a Friday morning, I highly suggest making a Eugene Melnyk burner account. It makes for a good time.
Do you think most of the replies were Sens fans?
I would say 90+% of the replies were Sens fans. Yeah.
So they're engaging.
They're there. Yeah. They're very busy on the social media. Yeah, most of them are people that, and actually some folks that I know through the show and other things, and actually a strong amount of other burner accounts. So there's a lot of them tweeting at other burner accounts, and it makes for some fun times.
It's pretty impressive. Like, you got 55 replies on here.
Yeah. Do
you have a favorite reply?
Probably. Let me just quickly skim through them. Some of the other tweets I may got a fair amount of replies to it as well. As we do this, I just wanted to share thank you to everyone who did join in. It was very fun. Most of them are quite similar. It was a lot of, there was one guy, this is probably my favorite, Matt Spose. He tweeted, "Give me back my kidney." That was my favorite reply. So, so thank you to everyone that follows old Shawn Cooper. But yeah, it was a fun little thing.
Goodbye to Shawn, I guess, right?
Yeah, we'll shut it down. I'll probably tag Shawn when we post this episode tonight and call it a day. Which is nice. It's nice to have a free guest on the show, right?
Shawn Cooper. We should have dialed him in.
We really should have got Shawn on the line. Missed opportunity. But you know what? Eugene's busy right now. Eugene's got a lot going on.
Yeah, no kidding. Maybe he should stop speaking publicly about not even his team. Like, his comments weren't even about the Senators.
Yeah.
They were taking shots at the Maple Leafs and their rebuild. Like, just shut up. Stop.
It's fantastic how he thinks, like, man, the Leafs rebuild really bad. Why would they do that? There's a lot of terrible things going on in the Leafs. Their defense, terrible. They missed the boat.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Hey, Eugene, where's your first round pick this year?
I'm very excited to have that. Thank you very much. Well, let's move on to we mentioned a championship game. This week, the Clarkson Cup was handed out, a matchup between the Montreal Canadiens and the Calgary Inferno in the CWHL. And I had to watch it from home. Nick, you were at the game. Give us the rundown on the Clarkson Cup.
I was there, and because it was in Toronto, actually, now that I think about it, and this thought is just popping into my head right now, why was it in Toronto? I guess they probably see more fan engagement out of Toronto, but neither of the teams was from here. But yeah, so I went. It was at the Coca-Cola Coliseum, which is where the Toronto Marlies play, and it was a pretty good game. The third period kind of came undone in the last the second half of it. But overall, like, the hockey was really good. It was physical. It was pretty vicious. I wonder if you didn't know that it was a no contact sport, if you would know from watching that game. So, well, probably because there were some body contact penalties handed out. But yeah, it was a good game. Calgary Inferno won 5-2. That included an empty net goal. So congratulations, Calgary.
Thank you.
Zoe Hickle scored 2 goals. Brianna Decker was the MVP of the game. Overall, it was a good game. It was good hockey.
Yeah, tuned in. I had to miss the first period of that game. Tuned in, actually, just when Brianna Decker scored the go-ahead goal for Calgary there, and it was from there. It was very good. Really turned on a disallowed goal at the start of the third. That would have, to me, you score a goal. It was 15 seconds into the third period.
Yeah.
You score a goal, it gets called back. The fact that Montreal managed to stay in it after that point was a testament to them as a team as it stands.
Yeah, it was pretty deflating. We were in a section with a lot of Montreal fans, and that goal callback elicited a lot of anger from them, because obviously, and after that, you could just feel kind of the energy sucked out a little bit from the team.
Yeah, but they, like you said, throughout the first half of that third, they really did manage to stay in it, even after that fact. And it wasn't until, Calgary got the fourth. And then, obviously the empty netter at the end, but it was
it was good. And it was tough for Montreal too, that Marie-Philippe Poulin was injured, so she didn't get to play the game. She went on to do the ceremonial face-off. But I mean, she's a huge difference maker, especially on that team. So that didn't help.
No, absolutely. It's, like we said with Nick's injury, there's a lot of injuries happening after a long season of hockey. And with the scheduling of the season for them, they go back to back to back, whether it's, Olympic hockey, they've got the World Championships coming up here. They've got their CWHL season. There's a ton of hockey being played.
Yeah, there is. And I have to say, like, credit where credit's due. Rogers Sportsnet did a wonderful, I didn't see the broadcast, but they did a wonderful job of promoting the game itself leading up to it. Like, they really, you could tell they put a lot behind it. They're kind of, they're taking a stand for women's hockey and trying to see what it can do when it gets a little bit of attention.
Yeah. And you saw all over, what was nice was that it didn't go up against a NHL game at that point in time.
Yeah.
It was, early in the day, which, it's a little bit of a weird scheduling time for a championship game, but when you want to not go against anything else, and you saw social media was all over that game, right? You put it nationally and people care. They want to watch those games, and definitely a shout out to Sportsnet for taking that chance. And I don't know financially how that works for them. But there is certainly something else they could have put there, but they didn't. And it paid off, because that was a fantastic game and very well received.
Yeah, for sure. And, you mentioned the scheduling too, not being scheduled against another NHL game, which it was Sunday afternoon. There could have been a game. But I think the NHL is watching very closely how these women's games are performing, especially when it comes to the broadcast. So it wouldn't surprise me if, I don't know what kind of advertising dollar Sportsnet put behind it all in all, but it wouldn't surprise me if the NHL was kind of helping them out a little bit and keeping an eye. I don't know if they did it all. I'm just kind of spitballing, but I think the NHL is watching very closely, because I think if the American and the Canadian women's hockey leagues ever get it together and merge into one, then I think the NHL is going to be ready to get involved themselves.
Well, and we saw at the All-Star game, Gary Bettman did have some comments to that regard, right? That the NHL was a little bit hesitant to really kind of take sides almost in this. But I don't think that's required. I think you can equally support both leagues. There's room in that. Their seasons do overlap, but at least, the championship weekends are staggered by, 2 weeks apart, a week apart?
2 weeks. I can't remember. Yeah. But anyways, staggered.
And so you have that, right? You can support both of them. And the teams do, right? You see NWHL teams partnering with NHL teams. We've certainly seen the Habs and the Flames partnering with their respective CWHL counterparts. So that is happening already, and you're seeing that. So I look forward to, I assume the team will be honored at the next Flames home game, as they should be.
Yeah. Yeah, they played a hell of a game. They really brought it to Montreal. They did earn that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that the best for the sport is to have the two leagues together, right? I have never seen a way that two sports can compete and try to take away from each other. Certainly they're in different markets. It's not like we have two teams in the same one, but partnering together, having a bigger fan base, bigger markets, bigger, you'd go from 5 teams and 6 teams to 11. That's huge.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I think most of the girls would agree with that as well. It's tough though, because it's going to disrupt a lot to get that started. It's going to be a huge disruption to the leagues, to the schedules, to the teams and the games. It's not an easy thing to just drop everything and do. So I think it'll take some time to get the right voices loud enough and start the work. It's going to be a lot of work.
It is, yeah. And a lot of, on both sides, but certainly one side will have to take the first steps to kind of swallow their pride and say, you know what, we want what's best for everyone, not just to make this league the best it can.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I think it's got to start with the players though.
Definitely. Yeah.
They got to push for it.
They most certainly do. But we actually have some news in that regard as well coming up.
Yeah, we'll have a guest at some point in the future. I don't know if I want to say more than that, but I've gotten confirmation that she is a women's hockey player, that she'll join us and talk to us on the show. We just need to get through Worlds, which starts on April 4th, I believe, and they go for 2 weeks, and then we'll have an update then.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. To just get some more insight on what is going on with the women's leagues and the women's game. So, and to find out about the World Championship. So that's going to be a fantastic thing, and looking forward to having her on the show.
Yeah.
This week, one of the oldest players in the NHL, and it's not the goaltender in the game that is currently 3-0 Maple Leafs, but one of the other oldest players in the NHL signed a contract extension. 42-year-old Zdeno Chara. Still going at least another year. Which, he just does what he does well enough. Certainly as a Boston Bruin, I do not have a ton of love for Zdeno Chara. He is slow. He is big, which helps in some ways and hurts in others. That reach is great, but you can really fit a pass underneath his giant lanky arms as well. But I assume at this point he just has a blank check from the Boston Bruins, like, hey, what do you want to come back? This is what it is. And he's like, okay, I'm going to ride my bike to games and just have some fun.
Yeah, I assume so. 1 year at a time, might as well pull the old Jaromir Jagr, but just do it with the same team. I can't imagine going anywhere else now, though.
No, that would be a weird situation. But as long as, the Bruins keep making the playoffs and there's no reason to think, there's no major shakeups happening with that organization and that roster anytime soon. So
yeah. And he's 42 years old. You said it. He's not fast. I don't think he's keeping up with the game, but I think the type of game he plays, he doesn't really need to. They got a fast team around him. He comes in, he does his thing. He's still a fit guy and he's fine.
Yeah. I do find it interesting, just kind of looking at, that contract, a lot of bonus, in regards to playoff games, which is whatever. If you've made the playoffs, you can afford to hand out some extra bonus to Zdeno Chara. You're going to make that back. And, it might impact your salary cap the season after, but I wouldn't expect that to be an issue. But, that could become, almost a $4 million deal for him, which is pretty good money for a 42-year-old.
Yeah, it's certainly a little bit of motivation to keep going in the second half of the year when you're 42 years old and you probably get a little tired and want some rest.
Yeah, certainly. Or take it a little easier in the regular season to make that playoff push.
Yeah. And like he's got to feel good enough about the team around him too to sign off on some of those bonuses. Like he probably feels, rightly so, that they're a playoff team next year.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be a hard bonus for him to miss.
Yeah, well, and he gets $250,000 just for making the playoffs, and then another $250,000 for 10 games in the playoffs. So yeah, he'll certainly get at least some of that. The Stanley Cup bonus a little harder though.
So he is 42 years old right now. As of today, he has played in 1,479 regular season games. So he's ranked 25th all time NHL in regular season games played. Here's a bit of trivia for you.
Okay.
There are 3 active players in the NHL above him on this list. Can you name all 3 of them?
3 active players on the games played list?
Yes. Ahead of him. Who have more?
Ooh, that is a good question. My mind goes to a few places off the bat.
Okay.
And one of them, I don't know. One of them's not true. My mind went because I saw Mark Giordano. He moved into second place all time in Flames games played, but not him. Another place my mind goes right away, Justin Williams. Been in the league a long while. But I also think it's not him. I can't think of anyone who is old. Luongo, I want to say because he's also old, but you don't play as many as a goalie.
No. So 2 of them, you're going to be like, oh, duh, of course. And the third one, I think you're going to be like, wait, he's still playing?
Ooh, I'm interested. Can you give me the teams of these players? Is that too much of a giveaway?
Sure.
Okay.
One of them is Toronto. One of them
Patrick Marleau.
Yeah, there you go. The other one is San Jose.
Yeah, Joseph, Mr. Thornton.
Yeah. The third one right now, I think, is Pittsburgh.
Matt Cullen.
Yeah.
Matt Cullen's a guy who will never go away, too.
Yeah, he's the one who I was like, I didn't realize he was still playing.
Yeah, I had that discovery recently this year, and I was like, oh, yeah, he's still around. So,
didn't he? I feel like I remember an interview of him on the ice after they won the Cup 2 years ago about how he's retiring now, calling it.
Yeah, that didn't last too long.
Whatever, man. Good for him.
I was going to pull it up here. I started doing the math, and then I stopped. I was going to see how many minutes Zdeno Chara has played in his entire career. Regular season, he has played an average of 24 minutes and 20 seconds a game for 1,479, which is 600 hours of time on ice over the course of his career.
Good on him.
So that's 25 days if you were to play it consecutively. 25 days Zdeno Chara has played. That's
kind of cool. That's a cool stat.
Yeah, so there you go. Congrats to Zdeno, and that number's going to keep going up. Maybe he'll manage to sneak in another day, make it a nice round 26.
Yeah. Here's one more fun one. He is among active players. He has the most seasons under his belt. Well, actually, he's tied with all the other guys. 21 seasons.
Yikes! So they were all. Yeah, they were all drafted. I guess presumably the same year, which was that was an interesting collection of ways that all happened, right? Because he even off the start, right? You look at that draft, right? You got Thornton, Marleau, Luongo, the other guy that I thought of from that draft. Chara, not near the top on that. He certainly dropped a ways and became, a big piece after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys, right? How could you have predicted what he would become?
Yeah, you can't.
At that age, tall, lanky guy,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, 3rd round pick turned out to be pretty good.
Good for you, Chara. He's had a very successful career.
Yeah. The playoffs. We're almost there, Nick. We are almost at the playoffs. A mere few weeks away. I have started. Now here's, we'll get into all of it, but let's start with my Colorado Avalanche, who at time of recording are 2 points up on the Wild and Coyotes, who have obviously both been eliminated in the Elimination Station, and that is becoming a reality for us. Fantastic news.
Fantastic news for you because the Avs are in, and for me because we don't have to pull anyone out of the Elimination Station.
So it's a win all around. 6 games left for all 3 of those teams. The Avalanche 2 points up, and actually have some days off as well. They don't play until Wednesday, so they're going to be nice and rested when Vegas comes to town. So that is nice. As it stands right now, and this is part of my my life right now, the Avalanche are currently slated to face the Calgary Flames in the first round of the playoffs, which has begged the question, how much am I going to pay for tickets?
Yes.
And 2, last week we talked about how the Flames were the most beatable team in a playoff spot. Whew.
But can the Avalanche do it?
I mean,
yes, they can. I still think the Flames are out. There's nothing that's going to change my mind on that unless they somehow acquire a superstar goalie now.
And which is, yeah, that's impossible. And so you have the Avalanche currently slotted to face the Flames, and that was going to be my question. Last week you said the Coyotes were a team that you thought could beat the Flames. Of the 3 of those wild card teams, the Flames likely going to lock up the Western Conference here very soon. They're up how many games on they're up 7 points on the Jets, so certainly looks like, and 6 on the Sharks. Looks like they're going to win the Pacific and the West.
Mm-hmm.
We'll play in that second wild card. Of those teams, let's assume Dallas doesn't fall back. Of those 3 teams, Colorado, Minnesota, and Arizona, humor me here. Which of those teams is best suited to beat the Flames?
I kind of want to say Dallas. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right.
I kind of want to say Dallas. But I think all 3 of them will.
Yeah. Any of those 4 certainly could make it happen.
I think... would you rather face the Flames or the Jets?
Oh, the Flames, and it's not close. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Like looking at that schedule or the possible teams, right? Like it's not going to be the Knights or the Blues. It could maybe be the Preds or the Jets or the Flames. Of those 3 possibilities of teams, even the Sharks, if they manage to sneak up, the Flames are the team I want to face the most, which is great.
Yeah,
they're the team most likely.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
And so, but then, we start to look, it's looking more and more like we're going to have a Preds Blues first round matchup, from that other side, and San Jose and Vegas on the other side. Certainly San Jose, Vegas, almost a guarantee. What are your thoughts on those matchups?
I think San Jose Vegas is going to be a great series. I think that one will be a lot of fun. And I think Vegas will get the first round exit they deserve, and we can put to bed the whole Cinderella story early this year.
Well, and I look at that, that's going to be a high scoring series. I know Marc-Andre Fleury carried them quite well, and he's done well for himself this year as well. Martin Jones less so, and if San Jose is going to win, they need to score a lot, and they can score a lot. I look forward to seeing that series.
Both of those goalies have played an insane amount of games this year. I think both of them are nearing the 60-game mark. And neither of them are that young.
Martin Jones?
Is he? He might be.
Yeah, Martin, I want to say, if I had to guess, I'd go with 25.
25?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely not 30. I'm going to look it up right now. And if you're right, I'm going to say...
Oh, 29. 29.
Oh, so I was closer to being right.
Yeah.
Not quite 30, but it's probably prime for a goalie-ish.
Yeah, Martin Jones, 29, and has played a total of, as the internet loads here, 57 games. Marc-Andre Fleury, 34, and has played even more games. He's played 59. So lots of minutes played for those goalies. But I have, the Knights have been giving Fleury some time off down the stretch. So that's a benefit. I haven't seen, I'm just pulling up here. HockeyDB doesn't give you the the games log, but Martin Jones likely should, I would expect, if the Sharks are smart, should be getting some more time off down the stretch as well.
I would think so. I mean, they've clinched their playoff spot at this point.
Yeah.
Right? Like, at this point, you're just chasing Calgary. If you don't get them, I don't know. I guess you want to get them, though. Yeah. You want that wild card matchup, and you don't want the Knights.
Yeah, so hopefully, they can lock that up. Or, Calgary locks it up, and they give him some time off before that matchup. On the flip side, we saw last year we had Winnipeg, Nashville, and it looks likely that that's what we'll have in the Central Division again. However, Nashville has to get through St. Louis, a team that for much of the year we'd all written off.
Yeah. And now they're in third place in the Central Division.
Yeah. On the backs of a confusingly good hot goaltender, Jordan Binnington, continues to win. It's just a situation where I believe it as long as it continues, right? Like at any point in time, he could fall apart. A relatively unknown player, he is 25, unlike Martin Jones.
There you go.
And but only played one game in the NHL before. So certainly like not even a prospect to say, right? Like he was an organizational goalie, and to come in, 5 shutouts in 27 games, so far for the Blues. Just a ridiculous, performance for him.
Yeah. And I guess the question is this sustainable in the playoffs, especially against a team like Nashville? I mean, he's played Nashville twice this year. He shut them out once, and he allowed 2 goals in the other game, but they won both games.
That's pretty good.
So he's held them off before, but the playoffs are a whole other intensity level.
They are, yeah. And you look at that. One thing that has helped him significantly is the fact that the Blues defensively have played really well in front of him, right? The amount of games that he's faced 20 shots or less, like 25 shots or less, is fantastic, right? And if you can keep that down for a goalie, you can make him look really good. And so, certainly, they didn't do that, or Jake Allen couldn't benefit from that when he was playing. But Binnington has come in, stolen the job, run with it. But, you'd say sustainability. I don't see any reason to believe that this would continue on.
Yeah, I agree. I won't be betting against the Predators in the first round, especially against St. Louis. No way.
Yeah. Well, let's flip on over to the Eastern Conference, where we have, similarly a very tight race. Only really 3 teams fighting for 2 spots there. So a little less tight than in the West. We have Carolina up 5 points on Columbus, Montreal 2 up, but have played an extra game, and Columbus now currently sitting out of the playoffs. If I asked this question last week, stop me. But who is fired when Columbus misses the playoffs?
I don't know who's fired. I don't know. I mean, you'd think that their GM, I'm going to butcher his name, Jarmo Kekalainen.
Nailed it.
I'm assuming that he got buy-in from ownership before going and trading away every single draft pick that they had in the next year or 2.
You would hope so, yeah.
You would hope so, which leaves Torts.
Yeah. And so last week we did talk about the Bobrovsky sitting situation, and he said this week that he does have a nagging injury.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, if you're wanting to give him some time to rest, fully benching him makes a moderate amount of sense, but still not the smartest of managements. And certainly you load up like you did. Montreal loaded up in 0 ways. They've just played well, and Columbus has struggled. And Kekalainen mentioned this week that cohesiveness seems to be the issue with this team. No kidding. You brought in half of your team brand new, threw them together, and said, go win games. You're not going to be cohesive. That is a big issue. And if you think that your coach, Torts, can't be the one who brings that team together, he has got to be the guy to go.
Yeah, I'd agree. And it's not like you brought in a couple fourth liners to play to fill in on minutes. Like they brought in some top 6 guys who are going to eat up a lot of minutes. Yeah. So you got to find a way to work them in to the lineup seamlessly, work them into the room. Yeah. I don't know. I would think it's Torts, but
you look at that and when you say that cohesion is the issue, that is something that rests solely on the coach. Certainly, you know, like you said, they should have had a conversation around it. How are we going to fit all these pieces in? You would think and hope that they were all on that same page, but if Torts isn't able to do that, and you know, he has had success, but he's also had some serious struggles in his time in Columbus. And, if all those guys are walking out the door, it's time for a fresh start entirely.
Yeah. I mean, I think the guy struggles everywhere, right? Like he won the cup in Tampa, but since then it's been struggle after struggle for him. I don't know. I find he doesn't connect with people the way he needs to, at least this generation of people that the way he needs to.
Yeah, I agree. But so with that said, do you think sitting here on Monday, March 25th, is Columbus the odd team out there?
I don't want them to be. I want Columbus to make it. I want Montreal all out, Carl. This is what my heart's picking.
That's the Toronto in you.
Listen.
Yeah. All those teams are off tonight. They're all playing tomorrow, though. Montreal gets to play Florida, who's going to be on a back-to-back. That is very nice. Columbus, the Islanders, and Carolina, Washington. So we'll see tomorrow. Montreal has the good schedule. The Jackets have a terrible schedule this next little bit. Montreal even worse. To me, it comes down to those two teams. Carolina feels very in at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think Carolina's in. Do you think they're going to continue to celebrate into the playoffs?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no question in my mind at this point in time that Carolina continues to do the storm surge into the playoffs because everyone's loving it. You don't see anyone walking out that door early. You win in the playoffs after not being there for a decade. You've got to.
You can't stop now.
No.
You can't stop now.
And the fans there don't want you to, right? You're doing it for those fans. You're not doing it for Don Cherry. You're not doing it for the Fourth Line podcast. You're doing it for the fans in that building, and they want it more than anything. I was actually very impressed. I assume you saw the March Madness inspired one. Yeah,
the basketball dunking.
Yeah. That was pretty impressive. Running you could barely tell they had skates on. Running some pick and rolls, a nice TBR with the hops.
Yeah. Do you think they rehearsed that?
You have to, right?
I would think so.
It obviously took an amount of pre-planning because you're like, hey, we need a basketball net.
It's true. Like, I didn't see the whole video, but I assume someone at some point rolled out that basketball net onto the ice.
From what I recall, and I could be misremembering, it was the mascot, whose name I don't know, but looks very porkish.
So here's what I'm most impressed by, because I had one of those basketball nets in my driveway growing up, that when he dunked, the whole thing didn't just fall down on top of him. Because no matter how much sand or water you put in those things, they were never stable. No, I think he didn't seem to really try to rock the rim like you were back in your heyday of driveway basketball. Where's his level of intensity? It's not fourth line worthy, apparently.
No, he was just given a solid effort.
I'm out here dunking with blistered fingers.
Well, you know what? I want to see those videos after. Head out to the driveway, head out to the local hoops, and show the kids how it's done. Is that the, I'm trying to think. I was going to say, is that the true story? But you wouldn't have made up a story of you getting blisters from lacing up your skates.
No, I told you it was silly.
Yeah, no, there's no way that would be the story when, like, if you were dunking, if you're like, yeah, I just, showed the kids how it was done down at the court. You would tell that story. You wouldn't hide that.
I would. I was such a baby though, because when it ripped, I was like, "Ooh, ah!" And I turned to my wife and I put my hand in her face. And she for some reason had a Band-Aid in her purse that she gave to me. Well, I put it on, and the guy was like, "It happens, buddy." And I was like, "Thank you for understanding."
When you're married to soft-fingered Nick, you always have to have a Band-Aid around.
Soft-fingered Nick. That's a good one.
It's true. On the rest of the East, the one thing that, obviously Tampa has locked up the President's Trophy. Is this the best team of the salary cap era? Because, certainly the numbers you're looking at, they're comparing them to the Red Wings team pre-cap, right? And we saw how great those teams were. And we'll see again on Wednesday, how they stacked up against some of their competition.
You had to go and bring that one up, huh? It's going to be torture.
No, it's fine. Tune in Wednesday, 8:00 Eastern time to find out how that goes for Nick. But when that's the likes of who you're comparing them against, to me, it's not even close.
Yeah, but I think what I find really interesting about that comparison specifically is that the Red Wings didn't win that year. They won a lot of President's Trophies in the 90s, and they didn't win the Cup. The playoffs, a whole other monster. Keep saying it, but it's true.
How do you think this team does in the playoffs? Because they're coming up. What's going to happen?
I think it's going to be harder for them than we all anticipate. And I know a lot of people are going to be filling out their brackets and not even a question. Tampa can take down Montreal. We've seen it all season. They can take down New York or Pittsburgh. But I think once the fatigue and the injuries start to wear on you, it's not as easy as you think. Now, the Tampa Bay Lightning know this. They've been to the Stanley Cup Finals. They've been to the Eastern Conference Finals. They know what it's going to take to go all the way. So the question is, are they ready to dig down as deep as they need to go and finally win it all?
Yeah, because this is you look at teams and you're like, this is their peak, right?
Yeah, 100%. And at what point? It happened to Yzerman back in that run in the mid 90s. They almost traded him after the 96 season because they said, does Yzerman have what it takes? We were saying it about Ovechkin for the last 10 years. Does Ovechkin have what it takes? And at what point do they start saying that about guys like Steven Stamkos? Does he have what it takes to go all the way? So they probably want to put an end to that before it starts.
Well, and you're not hearing that yet, right? Because this team is still doing it. But how many President's Trophies did the Caps win before people started saying that, right?
Yeah.
And so, you will in due time if you don't win. Certainly Washington or Tampa has already been getting further than Washington was. But you have to think even not making the Stanley Cup Finals for this season, if they lose in the conference finals, a disappointment to say the least.
I think so. But Tampa doesn't have that thing that Washington had where they always ran into Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh was their Achilles heel. Every year they hit Pittsburgh and they couldn't make it past them. I don't think Tampa really has that. There's nothing really there's no team that's been consistently beating them in the playoffs. Yeah. They don't have anyone in their heads.
No, there's no roadblock for them for sure.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm very excited for the playoffs to get started. We're just about 2 weeks away from that happening, and look forward to being at Game 1 of Colorado and Calgary. It's going to be a very, very fun atmosphere. That's one thing I'm torn on. I never it's always questionable being the opposing fan for a home game. I'm torn on mostly what I wear to the Flames. I'm not going to be cheering for the Flames, obviously, but I'm just curious.
Wear your jersey. If it's against the Avs, you gotta wear your Avs jersey.
Well, I'm not wearing the Avs if it's not against them, but maybe
yes.
We'll see. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We still have to make the playoffs. We managed to get 3 out of 4 points against the Blackhawks, and that's fine.
Yep.
Anyways, let's go to the Elimination Stations. Speaking of teams in or out of the playoffs, let's give the quick rundown of teams who have already been eliminated. The Ducks, Coyotes, Wild, Oilers, Devils, Wings, Kings, Sens, Blackhawks, Rangers, Sabres, Canucks. All the teams currently eliminated are also out of the playoffs. Of teams left, is there one that you in particular think they're done?
I never ever prepare for this part of the show, and I really should start. How about the team that is losing very badly to the Maple Leafs right now?
That is a very good choice. The Florida Panthers, currently down 4-2, 4 goals in the first period. They managed to storm back a little bit, but Florida Panthers are down, and they were going to be my pick as well. But when you look at this team, and our goal in the Elimination Station is to provide some next steps for the organization. What is your next step for the Florida Panthers?
I think they have a next step in mind. It's whether or not they're going to be successful. They're going after both Panarin and Bobrovsky. And I think if they could land both of those guys, that would be an amazing next step. Because to me, the Panthers are a picture of mediocrity. And they need to lift themselves above that.
We have never seen a team with Panarin and Bobrovsky miss the playoffs. It's impossible. It'll never happen. And if they can manage to add those two, they have the same path that the Blue Jackets have.
I just want the Blue Jackets to make it so bad.
Yeah, I get that. But you look at that. For me, the biggest change, certainly adding those two is a big change, but they need a change behind the bench. Bob Boughner has had his chance. He's been with that team for multiple seasons and hasn't gotten better, right? Certainly the team around him, he has good pieces. I still think Roberto Luongo is good enough to be the goaltender of a playoff team. Alexander Barkov is having his best season yet. The pieces around him are doing well. Certainly the team could be built better, but you look at that and he is a big problem.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I'm okay with you saying that. I approve.
Thank you. I'm glad we're on the same page there.
Thoughts on Aaron Ekblad?
Good. My biggest question mark with Ekblad is the fact that everyone likes to play the overrated, underrated card with him.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I do still think that he is a little bit underrated. Like, if you watch him play, he is very good. But he's one of those guys that's just steady. Like, he has some moments of flash, but like, he is not a guy, that from when I watch, and it could just be, the general team, but I don't watch and see Aaron Ekblad can take over a game. And that's a struggle. That's bad.
Yeah. And I think those were the expectations of him when he came into the league, I think. But he's still very young. I didn't realize that. He's only 23 years old, even though he looks like he's a man who works as a lumberjack and has 4 children to feed. But he's very young. I don't know. I just feel like, the expectations of him were very, very high. And maybe that wasn't fair at the time, but I think he can be and should be better for them.
Yeah. I agree. When you have, Barkov has been fantastic. He has been more than what they could have hoped for.
Yeah, agreed.
Which he's the captain of that team. He should be, but when you look at what he's been able to put up offensively this year, having his, 87 points in 75 games so far, fantastic. But Ekblad defensively, he needs to be that anchor. And, as a defenseman, it does take some time, right?
Yeah.
To become that, but, he's at that point that he needs to be there. He needs to be that solid piece.
Now, here's a question, the culture question. Should they bring in a veteran leader for some mentorship, some locker room leadership?
I feel like they have enough of that.
Do they?
They have. Well, so first off, you've got Keith Yandel, you've got Roberto Luongo.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And so you've got those two. You have Troy Brouwer, if you want some veteran presence.
Has he accomplished a lot?
He's
in his career.
He's managed to have an NHL career still.
True.
Yeah, I don't think that they need that piece, because like when I think now of like, oh, let's bring in some veteran leadership, like, yes, if they could sign a 1 year shorter version of the Patrick Marleau deal when he went to Toronto, great, right? The Marleau deal is 1 year too long. I've talked about that plenty. But something like that is fine, right? A veteran who's still good, but oftentimes when I hear that, I get red flags immediately of bringing in a guy who's too old, too slow, too past his prime, and you've brought him in as just a piece. If you need someone with veteran presence, bring in someone who's a good coach who can raise this team up, right? Certainly having that guy on the ice is good, but bring in someone who's able to have that. You know, if you're bringing in a Bobrovsky and Panarin, you add a Joel Quenneville to that. And obviously he's said repeatedly that he's not interested right now. He's going to wait and see, blah, 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 blah. But hey, there's a dollar amount, and Florida doesn't have the biggest pockets, but he could be convinced.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of teams after Joel Quenneville.
But, you know, I'm not, you know, you asked the question, do you think that they need to bring in some veteran pieces?
Me? No, I don't think so. I think that I was just looking at I'm on Cap Friendly. I was looking at some of the ages, and a lot of them are under 30. But I think that's the way the league should be trending, because it's a faster, more skillful game. And like, I don't know. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how old they are. Can they keep up with the game? Like, that to me is what matters. Like, I'm not a fan of bringing guys in just to provide like mentorship and leadership who can't keep up on the ice.
No, certainly not. And you can't have that. And yeah, well, the fact that Mike Hoffman is one of the oldest players on this team, speaks to how young this roster is.
It's crazy. Good playoff experience though.
Yes. He's had tons.
Long playoff run.
Bring in that sweet, sweet Ottawa presence.
Yeah.
Let's pick, we've talked a lot about the upcoming schedule, many, many big games. Let's pick our Pavel Bure's. We play High Sticking with them. You head to Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast and you pick the game or the team you think will win. You pick the score. We hand out prizes. I just sent off the latest batch of prizes out to folks who won, including Kat Nobi, winner of last round. We're going to be doing this one until the playoffs start. Then we'll be resetting, and we'll chat about that later. But moving into this week, starting with Tuesday, we already highlighted the plethora of games, big games involving the wild card in the East tomorrow night on Tuesday. Nick, where are you thinking?
Tuesday, I think I'll give you two choices because we talked about it today. Islanders, Columbus, or Florida, Montreal. Playoff implications for both.
If it's one of those two, I'm going Columbus, New York. Also worth noting, the Battle of the Bandwagon is happening, also with some big playoff implications.
I didn't even look at that one.
Which is fine. You know, any of those three games I would have been very supportive of. Two games with big playoff implications, Dallas, Calgary, and Vegas, Colorado. I am biased and would pick Vegas, Colorado. I was going to say Dallas, Colorado, which isn't even a game that's happening.
It's not even the game.
It's not a game. No, that would be my pick.
Let's do that. Let's do that game.
It was weird last week. We had a lot of like Dallas games. We had some Minnesota games. We had some Arizona games. And I was like, well, the team that keeps winning wasn't in any of these. So hopefully it's not a high sticking curse. Knock on wood. And we'll see what happens. Wednesday night.
We just did Wednesday.
Thursday, there's one game that's huge.
You're talking about Montreal Columbus, right?
Yeah. So that's a big game. Okay. Friday, a much less of an intense schedule, but there's a fun interconference game that I'm looking at there. Do you feel like
which one is that?
Or I guess there's Nashville, Pittsburgh, but I missed at the top because I always have it highlighted. Colorado, Arizona is a big one.
Yeah, that one has playoff implications.
Yeah, so let's see. That'll be I believe looking at their matchups, that's the last time those two teams play the rest of the season. And that is correct. That is the last time Colorado plays either of the teams. They do not play Minnesota down the stretch as well. And then, so we're on to Saturday night, which there's some games with playoff implications, but there's also Washington, Tampa, which was
that's where my eyes went.
A very good game when we had it in high sticking. Last week went to overtime. Tampa did manage to win, but what a game.
I mean, I'm okay with that game.
Yeah, let's go there.
It's probably gonna be the best game of the night.
Absolutely. Which leaves us Sunday, another wild card versus wild card on there. What do you think?
Or we give the people some non-wild card hockey to watch and give them Calgary, San Jose.
Let's do it. Calgary, San Jose. And then that leaves us, I'm just going to take a peek at the schedule on Monday night. There's actually not a lot of games with much implication on Monday, actually. So next Monday night, April 1st, the NHL gave us an April Fool's-like schedule where it's literally just like a playoff team versus a team that's not. The only playoff even is Toronto and the Island, which if you're watching a game that is John Tavares back on the Island again, that's worth watching.
Yeah, I would think they got it out of their system last time, but I guess we'll see.
We will see. But let's take a night off the high sticking for that day.
All right.
And we'll be back picking another batch on April 1st, for you to have. So we've got a reminder Wednesday, 8:00 Eastern time, 6:00 Mountain. We are going to be watching the Avalanche Championship video because Nick lost 2 bets and now we get to do it live so that, you get to watch and be a part of it. So we'll have the chat going. We'll have the video up. We will be, we'll share the link of the video we're using so that you can follow along at home. And it's going to be a very fun time. Nonetheless, it's also going to be, I assume we'll put it up on the podcast feed. We'll put it up on our YouTube channel. So stay tuned there, and you'll be able to find us there.
I need some Red Wings fans to please join me in this. We need to stand united.
And I look forward to having some of that.
I have one very big concern about this video, Carl.
What is it?
I have a concern that they are going to completely gloss over the Chris Draper incident. It's going to make me very upset.
Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how that's handled in the video. I have not watched it. I've waited until I've been able to do that with you present because I think that's a very, very important thing.
How nice of you.
You're welcome. The Alberta Podcast Network is a thing that we're very excited to be a part of. We love the shows there. We love the people there. And as we're getting into this season and we're looking into the off season, one thing that you can be doing is starting to look at what am I going to fill my off season with? And maybe you want to fill your off season with starting a new business. And you're thinking, now that hockey's here, my time's freed up. I want to start a business. There are a ton of business related podcasts. And one of those is called Cross Pollination. And it's a podcast about creativity and innovation. So if you head over to crosspollination.co, you'll be able to find a fantastic show hosted by NB, learning about different ways that you can use your creativity to do just that. It is a winner of the Canadian Podcast Award for Most Outstanding Business Series. So if you are looking for a business podcast, that is literally an award-winning one of them. So do not miss out on that. Head to the fourthlinepodcast.com. We talked about the CWHL. Mike Laybourne has some NWHL articles, and there's some rumors we're going to have some potentially some Eugene Melnyk themed work coming out later this week as well.
Ooh, more of it.
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe now that they know that I am the voice behind one of those troll accounts, that might change their perspective a little bit. But we'll never know. Oh, I guess we will know. We'll know.
Oh, we will know.
We'll know when they listen and when they tune in later this week. So, thank you very much for listening. You can find that at the fourthlinepodcast.com. Obviously, twitter.com/fourthlinepodcast and twitter.com/ShawnCo and a bunch of letters at the end of it. You can find us at both of those now, as well Facebook.com/The Fourth Line Podcast. We will be back next week on April 1st. We will see you first. We'll be back actually next on Wednesday.
Yeah, don't forget.
We'll be back on Wednesday. Our regular show will be here on Monday, where we won't be watching a fantastic video. We'll just be talking about hockey.
It's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go, but there aren't many topics that we have left untouched. And unlike NHL owners, we know when to shut up.